everybody, welcome. I've had many questions about how I actually feed a large family. Now, my family has gone from having 10 in the house down to having now just 5 in the house, but that's been the last couple of years. We've had kids that have grown up. We've stopped fostering and stuff, but we still have the same mentality to save money and cheaply but healthily feed my family. So let's start with the basic stuff. If you have been wanting to save money or cut costs or just feed your family healthy, the guideline that I would tell you is just make sure you have a budget. Know what everybody eats. I started putting extra vegetables and everything early on so that most of our meals had 5 to 6 colors, so at least I knew that my kids got their vegetables in their meals, and that really does help. It also helps on my kids not getting sick a lot, which they don't get sick very often. Putting garlic, celery, onion, carrots in basically everything, and then you can hide other stuff like broccoli or spinach powder or whatever to make sure that they get all the vitamins and nutrients that they need. So, with that being said, let's go over how I do my basic menu planning. At the last week of the month, I sit down and I look at the menu. I go through the coupons, I go through the sales ads, I go through my pantry and see what we have and what we need. My kids will write down as they use it on the fridge. If they use 1, 2, 3, 4 cans of something, or if they opened a new container of something, so that I know that I have to purchase it. I also check my spices, because spices are the flavor of life, really. With that flavoring, you're able to make a boring potato taste better, or make a meatloaf just pop that your kids will love. So having basic spices is a big thing that you need. You don't have to buy expensive spices. You can buy them in bulk at Winco. You can buy them for under $1 at Walmart. You can buy them in the Mexican section pretty cheap at most grocers. So just, keeping an eye on the stuff that you want, like parsley, paprika, garlic, onion ground, those things, thyme, oregano, just the basic spices to start out with, and then you can slowly add stuff. You can add ground mustard, you can add cumin, you can add cilantro, and then you can experience with other spices, spicier or even regional spices to add your cuisine and kick it from just the everyday food to something amazing. And that's really what does help with it. The other thing is making sure that you have somewhat of a food storage. Not just buying a prepackaged thing. Learn how to cook. If you learn how to cook, you are able to do the basics. If you learn how to cook rice one week, and you learn how to maybe make just like a basic brown gravy or a white gravy, that can actually be on a lot of stuff. You can, if you know how to make a basic Alfredo sauce, a white sauce, you can make a cheese sauce. You can, with that Alfredo, you can add bacon or you can add mushrooms or whatever and get your kids loving it. So just basic sauces. There's 5 sauces that most people should know how to make, is like a red sauce, a brown sauce, a white sauce, a vegetable type gravy, and then of course like a sausage crumbly gravy with some sort of protein. And those can pretty much go on rice, potato, back in the old days, Russian errors on toast. That's what people did to stretch their money. And so knowing that and knowing what items are cheap and what the prices are, eggs are very cheap too. So a traditional Southern breakfast in our house would be scrambled eggs, either bacon or sausage, a white gravy, or a night gravy or a coffee white gravy, over biscuits. And we don't do traditional biscuits in our house. We do angel biscuits, which are proofed and they melt, but they have yeast and baking soda and baking powder in them. So it does make them a little bit fluffier, but you can just learn how to make biscuits, and those will stretch as a bread for your meals. You can make a biscuit stuffing. You can make cornbread. You can make your own basic bread, which we have done in the years past, where a couple times a week we'd make 20 loaves of bread, 15 loaves of bread, depending on what we needed, and we'd make our muffins for the week and their cookies and whatever to stretch the meals. And if you knew how to make mashed potatoes, you knew how to make rice, and you knew how to make a gravy, you could stretch that and just add a handful of meat and a little bit of vegetables, and you've got a pretty healthy meal. Then you can open a can of fruit, or you can open maybe some applesauce or some flavored applesauce, and you've got a pretty healthy meal. So with that in mind, here is how we've done this for the past, oh gosh, my son's 21, so 22, 23 years that I've been cooking, and my kids have just grown very accustomed to how we do it. And they've mentioned before that not every parent cooks like this, and so it's great. My grandma's Southern. She didn't cook very well, but my mother learned out of necessity how to cook, and she fed us 11 kids in her spare time while she worked as a nurse full-time, sometimes up to 80 hours a week as a nurse, graveyard, and still feeding us kids healthily. And so we'd learned to have the basic staples. We had spaghetti sauce with vegetables several times a week. We would have like a goulash. We would have on Sundays a nice traditional dinner, whether it be roast or pork roast or chicken, and we'd stretch that meat throughout the week, and we would be able to eat quite well while Mom worked. So now that I'm in the season where my husband has been out of work for a few years, I have been cooking full-time because that's what I do for a living. And my kids are now older, and they've been helping with the cooking after learning how I showed them how to cook. So just getting people to help out, getting people to help and prep to make your life easier on the day that you're feeding them makes it a lot easier. So about we're going on my 6th year of meal planning. Meal planning is a big thing where, as I said, you can go shopping and stock up everything that you need in your pantry, no matter how small it is, even if it's a couple things where you pick up an extra can of tomato sauce every time you go shopping, or an extra box of pasta, or maybe even one of those instant gravy packets. They'll add up, and eventually you'll have a little bit of an extra stash. So that is a good idea to do, especially on a budget. Even if you're only spending $5 a week or $10 a week on your food storage, you can still get a lot of items. Back in the day when my kids were little and they only wanted to eat noodles, we did have a lot more noodles on hand, but now that we have a daughter with celiacs, we do not eat as much pasta as we used to. But we do a lot more potatoes and vegetables and stir fries because that's what she wants. So with that, with your arsenal and learning how to cook and learning how to fill your pantry, you need to find out what your family likes to make them happy. So I know that a couple times a week, as long as I have some sort of stir fry or some sort of pizza, that's a big one that we do in our house, or even just something to keep you sane, like using up the leftovers. I do a curry almost every other week. I'll do a stir-fry vegetable with the leftover vegetables and some fresh vegetables to stretch it, poured over rice. I'll also do veggie soups, and I will put all the leftovers in it. I'll also save scraps from peeling onions and carrots and stuff and keep those in the freezer. And if I don't dehydrate them, then I will add them to like a vegetable stock or a chicken stock. When we have full products like chicken, we'll boil and make our own chicken stock, same as beef with bones. We'll make our own beef stock, and we can use that throughout the week to flavor stuff. You can also save it in the freezer for when you need it, when you have extra freezers. Right now, this time in our life, we are in an apartment, so we don't have that much room, but you could also can it for long-term use and use that beef stock or chicken stock later on, which is perfectly fine. I don't have time for that right now, so we use either a Better Than Bouillon or a bouillon cube to add flavoring because it's shelf stable and it has a lot less storage room. So what are some of the basics that you should have in your pantry when you're starting out? Fresh items, you obviously should have milk or almond milk or whatever kind of milk you use. Sour cream, butter. You can use margarine. I don't prefer to use margarine because it kind of gets salty and weird and it's not very good for you to use. But if you're in a pinch, margarine is cheap. Sour cream, cheese, whether it's cheddar, Swiss, whatever, something fancy, that's fine too. It doesn't matter as long as you have some sort of cheese, because it's great when you use a cheese sauce over vegetables. Your kids are more likely, especially when my kids were little, to eat cheese-covered vegetables or a cheese-covered potato than just a plain potato with salt and pepper. So that's a good thing to have. Also with vegetables, carrot, celery, onion, garlic. You can get pre-minced garlic. I prefer to get pre-minced garlic in a big jar because we use a lot of garlic in our house. That's what helps keep us healthy. At one time I used to roast a whole bunch of garlic and just puree it and keep it in the fridge and have roasted garlic all the time. But right now I don't have time for that, so we'll just use pre-minced to make it easier on me. As I said, carrots, garlic, onion, celery. You can add potatoes, red, white, Yukon, whatever kind you want. Those are great stretchers to fill in. And once you have all that items, you can make a lot of things intermixed. You can make a scalloped potato, you can make a stir fry, you can make baked potatoes, you can boil the potatoes, you can mash the potatoes, you can do Hasselback, which is great. Or you can just roast the vegetables that you have, whether it's the celery or the carrots, or a roasted onion, or even a cream onion is the traditional Italian way to do it, and serve it over like a mashed potato or a rice. Amazing. You could also add some vegetables with fruit. So you could do your basic stockpile of boiled vegetables, and then you could maybe throw in an apple or a peach depending on what's on season, and that would be amazing. Adding some tomato is always a good idea because the lycopene that is in the tomato when it's cooked has lots of benefits for you. So with that in mind, we've got all those vegetables, we got all these fruit, and you can make lots of things. Other items that you should stockpile: flour, sugar, salt, cornstarch. You can make a lot of stuff with that. Yeast, so you can make bread and biscuits. That's amazing. And then if you get a chance, you can slowly add stuff like raisins, currants, dried plums, dried apples, and you could make, biscuits, scones, breads. We also pretty much all the time have apples, bananas, and oranges that we can use at any time. Now, it's great for your kids to eat raw, but you can also use them as they're going bad and stew them or cook them or bake them or dehydrate them. And you can use them as dehydrated fruit chips, or you can use them powdered to add into other flavorings. So you got to think about that too. There's so many uses for the foods that you have, and not just throwing them away when they go bad, but you can save them for later. Jams, jellies, you can make those too if they're starting to go bad. So that is an option. And with that being said, yes, every month I go through what we did for the last 5 to 6 years, and I write out another menu. And if you bear with me, I'll show you real quick the menu that I have for this upcoming month. So, I don't know if you can see it, but this is our menu for next month. So, today we're having just basic egg salad sandwiches over bread. And then tomorrow we're going to do a chicken noodle bake. And I've moved some stuff around because I've added the new month. We've got a yellow curry, some ham and pineapple pizza, some tomato soup, some scalloped potatoes, taco soup, bean burritos, leftover day, prep day, stir fry, cheese pizza, veggie soup, ham roast, chili, cheesy bean and rice burritos, leftovers again, Mongolian beef, broccoli and chicken braid, egg drop soup with egg rolls, roasted chicken, Cincinnati chili, enchiladas, which we'll use some of the leftover chicken, another leftover prep day, teriyaki chicken, pepperoni rolls, cheesy bean and rice, and so on and so on. So that's a great thing to have. Also, these are the last several months and the last month's. And of course, I have the recipes that we used for last month, and shortly I'll be going through this month's recipes and putting them in my clear storage tote so that we have what we need for the next several years when I'm menu planning. So when I do use the items on my menu board, I use the recipe or print out a recipe for that day so it's in there in case I'm working so that they can use it. And then we'll have it for the next year to plan so we can use that recipe or a new recipe if we want. I'll also go online and pick out recipes if I need to and don't have one that'll fill the gap so that we're not going with the same menu over and over again because my kids get kind of bored with doing the same thing over and over again. Alright, so here's another item that we have going right now. I've been doing this for a little while. Some weeks I'm not as good as it. The days that we have leftovers, obviously, I don't have in there. But I put the recipe and the items that we need to make the meals in the bucket. And then when I'm at work, they're able to use them. And that does help us save a little time. Also, making sure you have some sort of rice or maybe a potato that's cooked for your kids to eat when they get home from school is always a good thing, too, for my daughter that likes her rice. And then, of course, as I said, just making sure you have a basic pantry is great. And over time, it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And doing it really quick, it's messy as crap, and I don't want to show everything. But we do have a lot of items there if we're meal planning. So for meal planning, that we have easy access to recipes, food, and items. So we're not always at the grocery store. Another item that we do is Thrive. They have amazing freeze-dried products, but we also do use some of the other dehydrated products from Artisan Farms or whatever's on sale, like Honeywell or whatever. And we do supplement those because if you are on a budget and you're stretching stuff, you can use the pre-chopped up celery and carrots to make soups or stir fries or whatever if you're in a pinch and don't feel like going to the store. So it's great to have those pre-chopped items to help out. Other than that, that is this week's food storage and planning ideas. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below and we'll get to them answering as soon as possible. Next week we'll go over how I guess I go shopping because we'll be doing a big shopping haul this week. And you guys will see how we rotate using FIFO and how we store our items in the house.